There was a man from Katuah. Katuah is a bioregion. It's an eco, technically, the EPA calls it an eco zone 3. And it's a bioregion in that it shares a similar geography and fauna terrain. This bioregion called Katuah is where I live. It straddles the Tennessee-North Carolina border, stretches into Georgia, and it stretches up through Virginia. It's its own ecozone. It has its own climate, and the people that live there have their own concerns. North Carolina is a state that has 4 bioregions. There's the coastal bioregion. Let me show you. There's the coastal bioregion. And there's the central Piedmont bioregion. And then there's the region of Katuah, which is marked there. And there's actually one more to the west of it there, but most of that's outside of North Carolina. Those are 4 bioregions. Our country has hundreds of them. You can just see a few of them right there. You can check the description. You'll see a link to a PDF that you can download to take a look at it. But the idea of bioregions ties sovereignty to land. More specifically, it ties government to land. But this is a different kind of government in the sense of it's not a pyramid scheme, it's an inverse pyramid. The pyramid's turned upside down because resources percolate up locally from the community. Instead of, right now we have a system where all of our taxes are extracted from the people at a rate that's set by the top, and then all those extractions are placed into a funnel, and as it falls back down, everyone gets a chance to eat, to take from that funnel what they need. And the very last people that actually get anything, if at all, is the citizen or the taxpayer. This is psychopathy. It's also intentional. Some of us maybe who are listening don't understand what countries are. Like, they might still think countries are, sort of like autonomous creatures, but that's actually not what we're seeing happening. So bioregionalism turns that pyramid upside down. It's basically a confederacy of bioregions around the nation. All these bioregions would be joined by a People's Bill of Rights. It's very close to the Bill of Rights we have now. However, we've added some things to the Bill of Rights, and we also pretended like some things weren't in there. So we created classifications that don't need to be there. We can just trim the Bill of Rights down to basically 12 rights, I think. Just make sure that everyone knows what a man is, a natural born man, and what a right is, and just how all that stuff works. This is simple, non-aggressive principle, natural law that we're talking about. We already have the illusion that we have that now. This is simply actually doing that. So the top level is we're going to call it the federal government, and all they have is this core Bill of Rights. And it's this Bill of Rights that creates the tapestry where all of our bioregions weave in together. Without this tapestry, there would be no government. So accepting these core Bill of Rights is pretty much fundamental to any bioregion that wants to participate in the nation of America. So back into the bioregions now, you have a voluntary government system, and it's actually run off blockchain. It's run off an Ethereum contract system, or blockchain technology that we hear about now. And what happens is the resources are gifted into the community, and it percolates up which means instead of it coming through a funnel and everyone eating on its way down, it's more like, hey, take your leftovers and pass them up to someone that can use it. And this is what I mean by percolation. The soils already has what it needs, and now there's extra. There's more moisture, and that can be available as a resource. And that resource is what we would call government. But with this blockchain government, there actually are no leaders. There's no one's elected. There's actually not a discretionary judgment that's placed on a core group of people or leaders. That leads to psychopathy, and it creates a constriction for influence. And constriction is what's killing our country. So with bioregionalism, what you have is this voluntary project-oriented system of government. Picture a GoFundMe campaign for literally everything that you would want your government to do. That could be something as we need a new water tower. It could be the summer road needs to be repaired. It could be a dog park. It could be a law enforcement security fence, or a staff yearly staff to man the fire department, which is already volunteer. Bioregionalism is simply building a system of agreements. That's what government is a tapestry of agreements. That's really all we have, is our agreements with each other. We don't need laws, we need agreements. That's what's going to fix government. That's actually what's going to take America back to what it was originally intended, a confederacy of states within a union that are each experimenting with their own sovereignty, with their own democracy. If we delegate our sovereignty to the state, we're delegating our life force, our will, our consent to a machine. And that machine is a majority rule at best, meaning if there's no corruption in the government, what it is it's a majority rule situation. And that's a mob rule. That means that someone can stimulate the mob, and the mob can then react. We don't need to extract our morality from a mob rule. We have natural law. And that's what sovereignty is all about, which means you're going to have to own yourself more. You're going to have to own your own consent. You are no longer able to sliver off a piece of your daily dime that you make, your silver. Right now, you're required to sliver off 40% of that. So basically, every Monday and Tuesday, you're required to work for the state. There's no exceptions. Doesn't matter how healthy or how not healthy you are. Your work days are required to go to them right now in the form of taxation. That already you feel that, but you don't understand that you're also giving your consent. That time that you're giving is your prana, your psychic consent. Everything that the government does on your behalf with your silver is you doing that. And that's part of learning about sovereignty, is you need to learn how to own that word consent. People think that human stops at our skin. It doesn't. Your decisions are part of your aura. The things that you do and think about are part of your consciousness. That these are stretched. Sometimes they're stretched across the world. As your heart's with someone in Australia, or you're thinking about someone who's not here anymore. That this is sort of the same umbilical energy of consent that we have. And when every Monday and Tuesday you're giving that consent to the government, you're actually telling them, hey, feel free to set up a false flag outside the UAE in the Horn of Hormuz, or wherever you want. It could, Gulf of Tonkin, it doesn't really matter. You're actually giving the consent to, hey, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and set up a situation where we can spurry the mob, because that's what we have right now. At best, we have a mob rule government, in the sense of the ones that have fought their way into power get to make more of the decisions, but even that is still a mob. That's our consent. All the people that we're bombing overseas, that's our fault. This is our consent doing that. The 2000 JSOMs, air assault autonomous air missiles that we had in the year 2000, we gave consent for those. Those same missiles that hit the Pentagon, the same missiles that hit the towers, the same missiles that created the crater in Shanksville. We paid for that, and we gave our consent for it. And so part of the Great Awakening is understanding that, oh shit, I'm responsible for this. This is what I did. I did this. And when you do something that you're ashamed about, it's an opportunity to raise your consciousness. It's an opportunity to become more aware, because you have the chance to own your behavior. And owning your behavior is owning your consent. It's understanding what sovereignty really means. And that's what bioregionalism really is about. We don't have to call it bioregionalism, by the way. But when you tie it to the land, like I'm talking about, you end up creating sort of a garden, like if you were to plant a tree, and then 100 years from now, that tree is still there thriving. It's only because it's attached to that land. And that's why if we have the government based around that land structure, it's going to create it more like an organic being that we can feed, similar to a plant. And that could be a fruit tree, or it could be a system of government. It could be parking. It could be a lend a bike situation. It could be a charity, or it could be an opportunity for businesses to meet each other. It's the possibilities are endless as long as we keep it voluntary. Now, our militia is going to have to be mustered within the bioregion. That we, the people, need to own our own militia. Okay, that means we can't have a federal military. We can't have a Congress that votes its war powers away and then just never gets them back. They've failed their responsibility. We gave them a job. They have their post for decades. All they've done is taken more of our liberties away. Okay, but we're giving them that consent to do that to us. We're adults now. We're big humans. We're going to own our own behavior, and it means we're going to own this, and that means we're going to have to fix this. Okay. Now, this system of bioregionalism, it's going to put sovereignty right in your in your door, right on your lap. That means you're going to be raising barns more. It also means every Monday and Tuesday you're not forced in to give labor for all the nefarious things we've been doing. That time's now going to go into your community instead. Now, every full moon, as the moon's waxing, and I say that because no one needs a calendar. You don't need a certain amount of money. You don't need a cell phone to understand this. And it's just a beautiful thing our ancestors did. But every waxing moon, there's a powwow somewhere. You've got your local powwow within your bioregion. I live on the mountain of Cluntesca. I could see us doing it at Grandfather Mountain, which is just across the way. It would be a place where the locals around the area would gather, and they would solicit ideas from each other and to each other. Hey, I've got this great idea for this new dock at Buckeye Lake. It's going to mean that this, and we can do this. Anyway, if you're for it, maybe you could consider giving it some of your current. Now, let's talk about current. Current is an Ethereum contract, meaning if you were to pay a gift of $200 that you wanted to, this was money that you have extra that you want to pay into your government, your $200 is converted into current or Ethereum. And so now you're able to open an app on your phone, and that phone is called your Bioregions app. Mine would be Katuah, and I could click on the Katuah app and it would launch, and I would see my balance. The $200 that I gave is now there in current. Now, I can take that current, and with my finger, I can slide and decide how much of my current do I want to give to this water tower? How much of my current do I want to give to this great chestnut tree project? How much current do I want to give to the new summer road? Now, you can change how much current you're giving different resources whenever you want. It's an accrued thing that happens every day, which means as you learn more, let's say that you discover that you feel like a program you're supporting is corrupt. Well, no problem. You can just slide it down. You can take all that away. So you've got a living, breathing tapestry of government. You've got a government with instant feedback, and there's actually no human involved in this sense of being the middleman or controlling some kind of constriction. It's simply linking services to people. It really is that easy. Now, from my local bioregion, every summer solstice, I might go to the capital of Katuah. I might go to Kuala, which is inside the Cherokee, Eastern Cherokee Nation right now. It's on the border between Nantahala and Tennessee. It's some of the most beautiful country in the world. If we were to adopt bioregionalism, maybe the Cherokee Council would consider merging with us, and Kuala could be the capital of Katuah. And so on the summer solstice, some of the people from the local setting here, from Clontesco, would go to Kuala and participate in the solstice powwow. And that powwow would work the exact same way our local powwows work. Imagine all these different townships inside of a bioregion having a friendly competition of who can bring the most into the bioregion, who can be the biggest volunteer. That's how Tennessee got its name, the volunteer state, because when it was time to muster troops, they, among any other state, gathered more. They were proud of that. It became their heritage. That's how we can do it too. That's why our militia needs to be mustered in the bioregion. That's why if we decide that we found weapons of mass destruction in Iran, that every bioregion gets to turn to every citizen, which isn't a citizen anymore because now they're people. Now they're humans. They're the living soil of the land. They're a living, walking representation of the land. And that bioregion can turn to them and say, hey, we need you for a war. Do you agree that there are weapons of mass destruction in Iran and it's worth us killing people for it? And let people decide by actually mustering. And that takes consent back into the individual again. That means a soldier earns his own consent and he distributes his own consent. He would operate just like a volunteer fire department operates now. Most of our fire departments around the country are actually a volunteer nonprofit run. This is the system for voluntary government that's actually already in place. I'm not throwing anything crazy new here. All we're doing is taking the pyramid and turning it upside down. That's all we're doing. It doesn't even require a revolution. I think it's more of an exodus. It's simply a way of just departing from the system by divesting your faith in it. They've broken our faith. Guys, 19 box cutters. That's how poor of a job we did, if we're going to believe the official story. They want us to believe that all it took was 19 box cutters. Look at how much of our life we put into this apparent defense. It's called a defense, which means that they're supposed to be able to defend from 19 box cutters. This is psychopathy, and we can change it. And we can become our own Quetzalcoatl. America is a bird, and it can be a phoenix, because it's not okay for us to keep giving our consent out like this. It doesn't make us sovereign. It literally makes us slaves. We're living in slavery, and we're choosing that because we're nervous about our own consent. And I get it. We've been trauma programmed from so many stories. But think about how much harder it's going to be to trauma program us when they're going to have to do it to each bioregion. That's why when we decentralize media and television, we're decentralizing the ability for them to inject terror. Because each of our bioregions has our own story. We have our own campfire. We have our own idea of what is entertainment. just like we have our own ideas of what's important in government. The Outer Banks of North Carolina are going to want a completely different kind of government than up here in the high country. The Piedmont, the middle farming area of North Carolina, they're going to have their own ideas about what's important with government. This system allows that to happen. And it takes away the worst part of what we have now. It starts with a personal contract. You're going to have to look into admiralty law. I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you about this. But when we were born, we actually were put under a contract and became a meat trust, a trust of bone and sinew and meat. We were sold as a contract under our full name in all caps, and later assigned a serial number. I think it's important you break that contract. Some people say, no, I didn't sign up for it, so I don't need to. And that's fine. I'm not telling you to do that. But you can break that contract anyway. And it's the exact same thing that you might see if you were to open a newspaper. You would see a legal notice, that says, I so-and-so hereby do say that so-and-so is not my da-da-da. This is what that is. And you can post it on anywhere. You can post it on social media. You can post it, you can type it up. You can record it on video. It's just simply a statement of sovereignty. It's gaining back what is naturally yours, which is sovereignty of your own life. And to do that, it means that the government doesn't own you. You own yourself. Government is a child of the people, not the other way around. And it just simply puts that back into play. It could go like this. This is my Declaration of Independence. I, James True, void all contracts made under the person James Marshall True, with the corporation of the United States of America. I am a natural-born free man of the land. I am not a corporate fiction. I am the living soil. Even just saying that and thinking about it is going to really help. I believe it, and I just did it. I've written it down. I've posted it. I think we can all get there. We don't have to. None of us have to be a giant eagle that swarms in and saves the day. It doesn't have to be a revolution. It doesn't even have to involve you standing up. It's simply a matter of finding the sovereignty inside yourself. We learn to be patient observers like the owl. We learn cleverness from the crow and courage from the jay. But above all of them, rank the chickadee because of its indomitable spirit. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. You can reclaim your sovereignty. And when you reclaim your sovereignty, you vibrate that truth. And you make that truth become contagious. And it makes it that much easier for the person next to you to understand that they can claim their sovereignty too. This is how we bloom. This is how we open ourselves. And that means we need to have the right respect and love for ourselves. We've got to stop the flogging. We got to stop flogging ourselves in public. And we have to stop rewarding each other for doing that. That's why they shame the word supremacy. They want supremacy to be a bad word, but it's not. Being supreme is mastering something. You can be self-supreme. That's really what sovereignty is all about. So look into your land. Try and find its underground name. Katuah was hidden underneath the name North Carolina. That's Carolina. That's something from England, right? A king or a queen or something like that, right? There's no north and south. No, it's Katuah. It's the land. Nantahala, land of the noonday sun. Chattanooga, where mountain comes to a point. You have the opportunity to learn what is around me. What's its real name? What was it like a long time ago? And just glancing into my own history in this area with the Cherokee, Easily a third, even a half of that tribe wasn't even Cherokee. It was, white settlers, former slaves. It was it was the land accepting the people. It wasn't the Cherokee accepting all these other humans. It was simply the land accepting all of them together. So unpeel the mind control. Look underneath your state. See if you can find what the name is. And don't worry about, you're not going to find an official version. That I don't have a book that I can point to that says, well, this is Katuah. It's okay to name things. It's how you show that you love it. So even if you can't find that, just really connect yourself and find your sovereignty. As we become sovereign, the land becomes sovereign. The land gives us her resources so that we may give back to the land our awareness. That's why we work together. That's what the symbiosis is all about. So I hope you enjoyed that. You can read the article. It's probably much more eloquent in the sense that I actually wrote it and stuff. But I wanted to practice delivering this sort of conversation with you instead of just reading to you. The rattle of dissonance falls limp when you cut the tail. We can do that every day. Every day, we're just going to get a little bit more sovereign. All right. I'll see you next time if this goes out and if I do it again. Bye.